Hey y'all, it's Lit. I just got finished with an interview with one of my favorite YouTubers. He's a young man who's a Trump supporter, um, and he also does a lot of religion and politics and that sort of thing. And I asked him if he'd interview me about homelessness, and he agreed. And so I was able to discuss some of my views on homelessness, my conservative views on homelessness. And that's what I want you to know. If you don't know anything else about me, not only am I conservative, I'm a Trump conservative, and or a Trump Republican, I should say. And that's pretty much uh, what you hear from me as you listen to me. So if you are not a Trump supporter or you can't tolerate to hear what I have to say in praise of Trump, then you're probably in the wrong place. Just, forearmed is forewarned, I think is what they say. But right now, let's talk about the King holiday. Let's talk about the King holiday. I'm really so tired of people sort of doing Dr. King's legacy or an injustice on the King holiday year after year after year. It's a rehash of, the racial injustice and how far we still need to go. And personally, I think that we've come quite a long way since Dr. King's march, since that he fought so hard for the civil rights amendment, so that blacks wouldn't be constricted by having to go to certain bathrooms, having to sit in certain areas of the bus, not being considered for jobs. The question is now is, what have we done with that? What have we done with that? Many people before the civil rights movement were successful. I mean, can you imagine people being successful before the civil rights movement and people being black? There were millionaires prior to the civil rights movement who were perfectly successful. I think, if anything, the problem now is that we've gone too far the other way. You've got affirmative action, for example. Rather than using affirmative action to ensure that blacks were not discriminated against in getting into schools, elite schools, any schools, the affirmative action law was put into place. It didn't mean, though, that you just choose any sort of black person you want. Oh, this is a black person, boom, you fit the slot. That's as bad as it not being in effect, because very seldom can someone go from, say, being a failing student in high school to meeting the demands of college. The rule should have been and should be for those people who are maybe just on the edge, just on the border, and they may lose their opportunity coming from a financially tier 1 school, financially challenged tier 1 school, and not be able to get into college because of a fraction. I mean, but you don't go pull people just anywhere out and put them in. So that's why affirmative action has failed since Dr. King. Many people just think because they're black that they can get accepted to any school or get any job, and that makes it difficult for blacks who do have the and then this whole thing, this craziness with the Black Lives Matter movement has just gone beyond. I remember this guy was saying, remember the tailgating story? This guy tried to tailgate into an apartment complex. Well, let me tell you what tailgating is. Tailgating is when there's a lock at the door and the first person goes in, but you don't have the combination or whatever, and you just go in behind them. I would be very offended if I had keys to a building and someone else came in behind me and did not. Well, that's what this black guy did. He just said, I'm going to sneak in behind him. And the guy said, this is my building. Who are you? Well, I'm black. I'm black. How dare you ask me who I am? He didn't say he was a service person. He didn't say that he was there visiting a friend. He would just say, I'm black. I should be able to tell that. And the news media picked it up. The liberal news media, of course, picked it up. And they're just, oh, this poor black guy was discriminated against. And really what made things really bad, this guy had lost his father. His father had been killed under a similar incident. But he went back, as the liberal media makes people do, when they don't bow down and say everything that a black person does is right. This guy apologized. I should have been more sensitive to you growing up black. That was that black guy's problem. If you're still feeling offended if somebody calls you black or somebody does something, if you are internalizing it and thinking that you feel so inferior because you need to check yourself. Because that had nothing to do with race. That had nothing to do with race. And they blame so many things on race. And black people have started to use that as a crutch. Black people are just swearing that they're just hurt. And the real crisis that Dr. King was talking about now was the homeless crisis. He had moved way, way beyond the racial. And he was talking about poverty. He talked about poverty in America and how it is worse for Americans because they do see people who are getting ahead while they are just stuck in poverty, where in other countries they're all experiencing it. But in America, it's like, some people can, drive a flashy car, and another person is, barely able to walk or get the bus, or, live in a shabby house. And I'm going to tell you where that comes from. That comes from black on black. I read this book called Evicted, how these landlords were just treating other black people horribly. Where are these leaders in the black community when it comes to going back and being role models to kids in their community, the youth in their community? Where are those adults? Where are the black people who have made it?